In this video, I'm going to talk about 5 huge upcoming MMOs that we don't know that much about, but I'll tell you what we do know and maybe when we can expect them. The first MMO that we don't know too much about is going to be a new MMO by Zenimax Online Studios. You might be familiar with Zenimax because they make Elder Scrolls Online, which is a very popular hybrid combat MMO. It has a great story. It's been out 10 years and it's still getting new content. In fact, it's getting a new expansion just this year, and we know that they started work on an MMO at some point. When Microsoft bought Zenimax and Bethesda, some of the financials were leaked, and there was a game on the list of upcoming games that was called Project Kestrel. This had a launch and an expansion, which led to people thinking that it was an MMO. However, that game should have probably been out by now and it appears to have been delayed, and I don't necessarily think it's the big MMO that is being made. We first saw about this Zenimax Online MMO around about 2019 when they basically made a job listing for it. I would assume that the game started around about then, but obviously that's not something I can confirm. Now, what's interesting here is that they are actually making a brand new engine. It does not appear that it's going to be using Unreal Engine 5, even though there were some ideas that it was going to use UE5 because some of the job postings and stuff mentioned it, but on Twitter, it looks like they are making a new engine custom made for the very purpose of this MMO. We're also not 100% sure about the IP. What is the universe going to be? Is it going to be one of the games that they already have? Maybe like Fallout? Or is it going to be something completely new? I think it's likely going to be a new IP, but obviously details on this MMO at this point are quite scarce. One of the most exciting things about this MMO is that I likely think we'll probably not hear too much until it's quite close to release. It's not going to be something like Ashes of Creation where we're getting open development. No, I suspect we'll probably get an announcement and then a release the following year, which means it could just literally surprise us. I'm personally excited for this one because Elder Scrolls Online has a hybrid combat, and I actually think it's mostly good, barring maybe some animation cancels, but let's not get into details here. And I'm really looking forward to what this team produces. I would expect a strong story, good combat, and much more. As for when it would release, well, if they started working on 2019, we'll call it 7 years, we could start hearing details around 2026. Yes, unfortunately, that's about 2 years off, but still, it's a big MMO that's coming at some point, and we know it's being worked on by a competent team. So let's see what we get there. The next MMO that we don't know too much about is Everquest 3. Now, there have been rumors and murmurings of a sequel to this franchise for a very long time. We also had the Everquest Next and Landmark game that was announced and then cancelled, but in around about September 2023, we got confirmation from EG7, who are the people who own Daybreak, who have the rights to make this game, that something is being created in the Everquest universe, and it's probably likely going to be an MMO. As of then, it was in an ideation phase, which basically means they're thinking about what to do with it and they're creating the concepts. This means that there's obviously nothing to talk about, nothing to show at this moment. And again, if I sort of estimate around about 7 years, I could see this game coming out around about 2030. That's an awfully long time. That's like 6 years away from now. However, a new MMO in the Everquest universe would be big news. Everquest for its time was incredibly popular, and it's probably about time we get another one. Now, the next MMO I simply couldn't do this list without talking about because everybody would mention it, and that is the Riot MMO. It's safe to say that the Riot MMO is probably one of the most hotly touted MMOs out there, and many people think that Riot will save the MMO genre. Whilst a lot is known about the universe of Runeterra, and a lot is known about Riot Games, not much is actually known about the gameplay about Riot's upcoming MMO. I think people are excited for this one because when you look at the history and the track record of Riot, most of the games that they have made have been successful. Obviously, the standout one being League of Legends. I am personally curious about the fighting game 2XKO, which by the way has got quite a silly name, but I'm curious if they'll make moves in the fighting genre or if that will be one of their first failures. Whilst the Riot MMO is very greatly anticipated by the MMO community, the excitement for me is a little bit confusing. They don't have a track record making MMOs, and I think MMOs are quite frankly different beasts from other game types, and we literally know nothing about the gameplay, which for me is probably the main thing. Whilst I am excited about this game, my expectations are a little bit tempered. Right now, it's just a mystery box that we're all putting our expectations in, and the end result, we have no idea if it will be good or not. Everybody is just assuming it will be good, and you know what? I think it'll be good as well. We just need to be aware that we actually don't know that for sure. The next huge MMO that I want to talk about is the Horizon MMO. Now for me, this sort of came out of left field. I've never really played the Horizon Zero Dawn game, but it appears to be a team up between Sony and NCSoft. They appear to be making an MMO based, as I said, on the Horizon IP. Now, this project, unlike pretty much all the other projects, is more leak and rumor. However, the rumors are strongly suggesting this is happening. It was referred to at one point as Project H, but is now known as Project Skyline, and it appears to be being made for PC and mobile, which, by the way, I'm aware that mobile will turn some of you off. And there didn't appear to be any mention about PlayStation or console, which would be a little bit confusing considering the origin of this IP. It's rumoured that the development of this game started in 2021 and has around about 140 developers working on it, and it's using Unreal Engine 5. Now, I'm not sure why Guerrilla, who were the team that originally made the game, aren't making the MMO, but Sony have teamed up with NCSoft, and I'm also aware that NCSoft will be an immediately turn off for quite a few of you. Little is known about the Horizon MMO, but you know what? It could actually be pretty damn big. You've got Sony and NCSoft. Yeah, that could work. It could also be a massive failure, but you know, let's be optimistic here. The next huge MMO that we don't know that much about is going to be a Lord of the Rings MMO made by Amazon Game Studios. Now, this was announced in 2023 that Amazon are making a new Lord of the Rings MMO, and expectations might not be exactly high for this one, but I think it could actually be amazing. However, the Amazon MMO sort of got off on the wrong foot, with one Amazon exec basically saying he just expects players of the old Lord of the Rings MMO to just move over, which ignores the fact that some of those players might have been playing that game for over 20 years by the time we get the Amazon Lord of the Rings game. Now, whilst I understand the sentiment, it's probably not something an executive should be saying. We also can't really talk about Lord of the Rings MMO being made by Amazon without first talking about New World. Regular viewers of the channel will know that I am quite a fan of New World, but even I can admit that it has a few faults. Well, okay, not just a few faults, quite a lot of failings. But I do believe that Amazon Games will learn lessons from New World, and I think they'll make Lord of the Rings a much better experience overall. The Lord of the Rings MMO will be built on the same engine, but at least this time they know what kind of game they are making right from the very start. It's also worth pointing out that this Lord of the Rings game is different from the Lord of the Rings game that Amazon and Tencent were working on. That one got cancelled, and now Amazon are making one on their own in the same as-of engine that New World is in. And it's actually in the same studio, same location, same people. And some people might be thinking, well, if New World wasn't very good, what makes you think that Lord of the Rings will be good? Well, I look at something like Power World and their first game. Pocket Pair are the developers, and their first game, Craftopia, was not exactly well received, whereas Power World was huge and much better. So I think they can improve, and I think they will improve. However, we don't know anything really about the gameplay yet, and this is another game that I think we're not really going to be seeing this until around about 2030, unless somehow AI can magic full games by then, which you never know. I'm not actually going to rule out. I personally recently checked out the old Lord of the Rings Online MMO, and I'll leave a link to that in the description and in the comments. If you want to go check that out, check it out please, I'd very much appreciate that. For now, that's 5 huge MMOs that are coming in the future that we don't know too much about, but personally I think every single one of these I am excited about. There's obviously quite a few games that are coming that we know a little bit more about, for example, Chrono Odyssey, Arcade 2, and much more, but the MMOs in this video are being made by developers that have already made MMOs typically, and or are set in universes that already exist, so we know that they're going to be good in that way as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big shout out to my Patreons, I do really appreciate you guys. If you want to support the channel, that's the best way. For now, have a most beautiful day, like and subscribe. Goodbye.